How we doing, folks? Oh shit, I forgot to turn on my lights. Hold on. Hold on. I knew I was forgetting something. Hold on. Alright. How we doing? How we doing? We're back. We're back with another Devon's movie dungeon. How we doing, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good week. Thursday. It's March. It is March, and we are back. Yes, this is Devon's Movie Dungeon, where we yap about movies. And I mean we, it's mostly I. It is mostly I who yaps about movies for roughly an hour or so. We have a pretty, I would say an interesting docket tonight, because I guess this is kind of a follow-up from our last one we did 2 weeks ago. More particularly with Warner Brothers, because a deal has been made. Officially, because at the time it was kind of up in the air still, or it was leaning one direction after some months of back and forth, but the deal has gone through officially, so we'll talk about that. And as we normally do on this show here, I also talk about some of the movies I've been watching, some TV shows I've been watching. Yeah, so let's get started here. Aha, there we go. First try. Yeah, let's just jump right into it. What have I been watching? What have I been seeing? Let's do TV shows first. Yeah, because last time I talked about Pluribus, which I finished. Very, very good. And then last week, Godzilla, well, technically Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 started on Apple as well. So I watched that. It was a pretty, I think, quick episode, it felt like. It was, if anything, it was hard for me to remember the first season a little in some ways. I remember where it left off, but I was trying to remember all the little things that happened. I did really enjoy Season 1, more so the human characters more than I thought I would, which is good, I think, in a TV show on a much smaller budget than the movies. I guess I should preface this by saying I'm a big Godzilla fan. I just got this for my birthday. This is a Mechagodzilla OG, but in silver, red, and black. I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm a big Godzilla fan, and if you asked me 10 years ago, after, yeah, it would have been 2016. If you asked me, you know, because I think at the time they announced Godzilla, the second one, right? King of the Monsters. And I wasn't sure, like, okay, this might be the last one. They might, you know, we're getting this out here because we weren't sure if there's going to be more. And then also Kong came out like a year after that. If you asked me 10 years ago if there'd be a TV show and multiple movies at this point, I would have been like, damn, how'd that happen? Because I don't know, just with box office numbers, they do fine. At least the last couple did fine, but they've never been like Marvel level. But I appreciate that Legendary hasn't, you know, given up on it. Like I said, in the world of Marvel movies, where I feel like franchises are expected to make X amount of money. But Godzilla vs. Kong came out during COVID. I had to watch that on HBO Max at the time, which really sucked. But that did decently well in the box office despite everything. I think that was like the first real movie that did well once COVID started, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that really helped it. And the last one, I'm not sure how it did in the box office, but it was another Godzilla vs. Kong. I unfortunately didn't like that one as much. I thought it was a little just too goofy and over the top, but to be fair, a lot of Godzilla movies are, and I loved those as a kid, but This one came off the heels of Godzilla Minus One, arguably the best Godzilla movie in terms of a serious film, one of the serious ones, best human characters. But yeah, all that said, the human characters, the story was more of a thriller mystery in the first season of Monarch here, and I really dug that. I know some of Godzilla fans didn't like it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Yes, I would love more monster action. You always want more monster action, but at the same time, I thought it was entertaining enough, and it really dove into like Monarch, and I do love the jumping back and forth with time periods. And you have the Kurt Russell and his son playing the same character. I think that's really fun. That's cool. In a it's not too serious way, right? So it's really fun that way. But yeah, the first episode was kind of just, I needed a refresher, and I watched it, and it seems cool. Looks like we got some sort of sea monster of some sort that does give me Biollante vibes. If you know Godzilla, you know who Biollante is. Hopefully, it's one of the better. That monster is part of Godzilla vs. Biollante, which was 1991, maybe 92. Because it takes place after 84, so maybe it's 89 actually. Maybe it's later. See, I'm a fake Godzilla fan. I actually don't know the year off the top of my head. But that was one of the better movies of that era, of the 90s era, Heisei era. But it definitely looked inspired, I'll say, that what looks like to be our main villain for this season, which I think is different than the first season of the show, where there wasn't like one big baddie. It was kind of different factions, because there's like the other are they called Apex? I forget what they're called, that Monarch was competing with. I like that, and like I said, it's also, there was a love triangle thing going on. It looks like we're getting more of that as well. So the first episode was pretty, I think, just standard, a little quick, but I think it was trying to get our characters in the right spots so that we can start the show, start the new plot here. So we'll see where it goes. I don't have too many further thoughts outside of that. Yes, so then I think that's all the TV shows I've been watching, I think. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's get to the movies, because we have to catch up a little bit here. I thought I did a couple of these last episode, but I realized the last episode was on the 19th of February, so I have 4 movies here. There's really one in particular I want to talk about that I watched most recent. We'll get to that, but I just want to quickly shout out, I saw the TV Glow. This movie really surprised me. I knew it was I thought it was a horror movie. I think I would still classify it in horror to some degree, but it isn't. It's more of a coming-of-age story. It's a queer story. And I wasn't expecting either those two things there. Either of those two things. It was directed by. I want to make sure I get their name. Yeah, Jane. What's their last name here? Yeah, Jane Schoenbrunn. She has been directing a lot of things prior to this, mostly music videos and some smaller stuff. But yeah, I saw the TV Glow, and the reason I even watched this, because it was on HBO Max. It was on the Leaving Soon category, and I'm like, oh, I wanted to see this. I heard good things about it. But I never really dove into the plot. I didn't even look at the plot at all. I just kind of went into the movie. I did also see that Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, or Miasma, was announced, or it was announced done. Yeah, it says director completed here. I think I saw a trailer for it or something. And I saw it was the same director, so I was like, oh, I gotta do the homework. Because this looks interesting. Or sounds interesting. But yeah, I saw the TV Glow. It's definitely a love letter to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And like I said, it's a coming-of-age story. A story about coming out, but one of the characters doesn't, or is conflicted about it. But yeah, it wasn't what I expected. Like I said, there's some horror elements, but really, it's more of a drama. It's really more of a drama, I would say, and I just really dug it though. It was really good. I really was attached to the characters, and you're cheering for them, and then you get frustrated for them, and it was a really good, like I said, surprise. Not what I was expected going in. Like I said, I don't really remember. I don't even remember the trailer from it. I just remember people talked about it in 2024, and people said it was good. And I, 5.8 stars. I'm assuming people who are hateful downvoted this movie, but I gave it a 5. I gave it a 5 on my letterbox. I really did enjoy that movie. Hell yeah, I loved it a lot, and I'm looking forward to what Jane does next. And if I'm not mistaken, I was looking at some of the IMDb. I'll say a name you might be familiar with in this movie is Justice Smith from Detective Pikachu and Jurassic World, the first one. But yeah, the cast I think is all queer. I think I learned that he might be in a gay relationship. I don't remember the details, but queer as well. But all the writers are, or Jane's the main writer there, but I think I was reading just more of the stars are and whatnot. Just it was really well made though. I really enjoyed it. I think, was this A24 as well? I think it was. So it has your A24, cinematography, and just well made. But like I said, the story's great coming of age story, great queer story. I really enjoyed it. I recommend it. And like I said, it's not really scary. It's not really like horror. It has horror elements, like there's parts where it's talking about, or not talking about, but shows like horror monsters and stuff. But like if you enjoy Buffy the Vampire Slayer or know about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you'll probably dig this even more. I think that's really the lead with this. It felt like a love letter to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and what it seems to mean to Jane. That is I Saw the TV Glow. Great, fantastic. The next day we watched Dead of Winter. I think it's on HBO. Was it an HBO original? I don't remember. Bryn found it and said, "Let's watch it. It looks cool." I'm like, I've never heard of it, but we ride into it. 2025 technically, this is HBO, so I think it's an HBO production or they have the rights to, promote it. So, Dead of Winter here. Director Brian Kirk, Emma Thompson, Judy Greer, and Mark Menchaca is in it. Not too familiar with their works, but basically, I'll just read the synopsis. I'll probably better sum it up more than I would. A woman traveling alone through snowbound northern Minnesota interrupts the kidnapping of a teenage girl. Hours from the nearest town with no phone service, she realized that she's the young girl's only hope. This is your kind of action thriller films. Think The Beekeeper, Jason Statham, or I guess a bigger version of this would be John Wick, but it's not as big and broad as that. It's about like an older woman. She's a widow, and she goes out to. The reason she's even out here, and it's like in the middle of a storm too, in Minnesota. And the reason she went out there was to put her husband's ashes in the water. Go ice fishing, put the ashes in the water, because that was their first date. Basically, she finds out there's a teenage girl kidnapped. I won't spoil too much more, but it's pretty small scale. There's really two locations in this movie, maybe 3 if you want to argue. So it's definitely small budget on that front, but I don't think it's a bad thing for something like this. But if you like I said, if you like it's not as, I guess, there's not gonna be as many it's not gonna be martial arts like I said, The Beekeeper or John Wick, but there is the people fighting, and they do desperate things, or there's some level of violence or gore there, right? So there's that. But it's an easy watch. There's some jumps in logic, I feel like, or like some things I feel like could have been better stitched together, I guess. But I think me kind of more nitpicking on it more than anything, because this type of movie, you're just trying to get to the next set piece. And that's my other critique I'll say. Like I said, there's 2 locations really in this, and there wasn't too many like set pieces I felt like that were really super satisfying for this type of movie. There's some cool, interesting like things they do, but I just wanted like a big set piece or something a little bit bigger at some point. But like I said, I get it, smaller budget, small cast. So, but at least the ending, I'll say, I won't spoil it, but the ending, I was surprised by. I thought it was going to go a different direction, and that it went to another. So I'll give it that. So I think I gave it a 4. Because I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't too long either. Yeah, an hour 38. Right in our sweet spot, an hour 30, as we say on the Sonic movie show with our video game movies. But yeah, it like I said, if you enjoy the survival thriller, but like not to, like I said, you're not going to get the martial arts or whatnot, but there's some realism to it, I guess, and some, our main character's a badass and can maybe survive longer than the average person, and that's cool. So it is what it is. It was fine. I wasn't going in with too high expectations, and I think it met them. But like I said, if you wanted to improve on it, I think it would need a bigger budget or some big set piece in it, and it really was just a lot of small things that they work with. And they work with the best they got, it felt like. So, like I said, surprised by the ending. You're cheering for our characters, our main characters in it. But yeah, Dead of Winter, 4 out of 5. I probably will forget about it though. I don't know. I think it's like a very specific type of, like I said, movie. All right, up next is this one. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. I saw a week after it came out, and this was done by Gore Verbinski, who did Pirates of the Caribbean. The first 3 was the director. Also did A Cure for Wellness, which I didn't realize it's been almost 10 years since their last movie, and I have seen A Cure for Wellness. I remember liking it, but it's been literally 10 years since I've seen it. But yeah, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. I didn't know anything about it. I went in pretty blind. The only thing I saw was someone mention online, I think on Twitter, that it has a anti-AI messaging in it, and I don't know to what degree that was. But I went in. I didn't know what the plot was, what was going on. I just went in literally blind. I don't even remember seeing a trailer really for it. I don't remember seeing one. But I saw it, and I gave it a 4 because, yeah, the general idea is cool, and I think the cast was there, and I like the messaging of it. Definitely is anti-AI, and I would even argue anti-technological, or being at least not anti, but like being overly critical of technological processes or technological advancements, rather. It definitely critiques even more specifically cell phones and our addiction to cell phones. And basically, the premise is, that leads to the end of the world. And so our main guy, Sam Rockwell just calls the man from the future. I didn't even what's his name? I don't remember. It's called the man from the future. Who literally, comes from the future, comes back, he's sent back in time, Terminator 2 style a bit, and or Terminator style rather, and he has to find a combination of people in a diner that will lead to them stopping the development of like a super AI that will bring the end times. And like I said, with all that, sounds like something up my alley. But my biggest gripes with this film is two things. Well, two of my biggest gripes with this film. First one is the pacing. I loved Weapons last year, and this movie has a similar style. I'm not saying Weapons was the first movie to do this. There's other movies that have done this. But, you know, it's one of those movies where you're going to jump to the present, and then you're going to jump to the different characters who are involved in the present, right? So you're going back and seeing how they got to this predicament, and they're going through each character. But they don't go through every character. They only go through the important ones, which halfway through I realize that, alright, if they haven't shown what I would think is the next person, and they're not talking as much, they might die. So, that, like, I don't know, with Weapons, it wasn't like that. You weren't sure who was going to make it to the end or not make it to the end, based off, you know, how they paced it. And so that was one of my biggest gripes of this film, is the pacing. And also just overall, I feel like they jumped to the present for too long at some parts, or not long enough. And they would go and show a different character in the past. And some of the characters felt like they just wanted to do a different story. So they used that character as a vessel to tell that, which I wasn't like. I just didn't like the pacing mostly, and I didn't mind them attempting to do that. Because one of the characters, I guess I'm trying not to spoil this movie, but I'll say one of the characters has basically a Black Mirror episode. Like a 20-minute Black Mirror episode, at least it felt like a 20-minute Black Mirror episode, happened to them before they even get to this diner. So, I didn't mind that, but then other characters didn't have as specific, or didn't feel as fleshed out, I guess, compared to that, you know, maybe one character having, like I said, a Black Mirror episode. And then I don't know, it just the pacing was weird in this movie. And this leads to my next critique of this film that I didn't necessarily enjoy, which sucks because I like Gore's Pirates of the Caribbean films. Probably one of my favorite franchises, at least from the original three. My brother and I quote it. I literally have an Orlando Bloom from At World's End cut out right over here. That my brother got me as a gag gift. And I think the comedy in those movies work great for that movie. It's very like The Mummy coded, I guess you can say. The comedy in this movie missed more than it hit for me. And I don't know if it was the dialogue, or the tone, or the delivery, or a combination of all those things. I don't know what it was. But like right from the beginning, I was just like, okay, yeah, Like it wasn't like, not even like a fun chuckle, like, you know, it was more of a just, all right, okay, you know, like it wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't for me, I guess. But then there was other ones where it did land, and I think were good. But other ones, I don't know. It just didn't hit for whatever reason, and it just, I don't know. It just wasn't for me, and I hated that it wasn't for me, because like I said, I liked the general premise and its themes, but the overall like actual, like I said, the pacing of the story and then the comedy just kind of took me out of it sometimes, or just didn't resonate with me. It didn't impact me enough, where I feel like it was trying to. So that's why I gave it a 4, because I'm like, man, this could have been, for me, really, really cool, and maybe on my, you know, top 10, maybe even top 5, just based off of, like what it felt like, like what the themes were and everything. Because I'm a themes guy. But yeah, good luck, have fun, don't die. I think this would be great for some people. Might be one of their favorites for the year for some people. I could definitely see it. but I don't know. It just wasn't. It just didn't hit me. Maybe I just had expectations or something, but I didn't have any. I went in pretty blind, so I don't know. Maybe it's just the messaging I was like hyper focused on. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to like give benefit of the doubt to the movie because I know some of my friends enjoyed it, and I was just like, yeah, I thought it was good, but it wasn't like great. So yeah, I gave it a 4. Like I said, cinematography was good. Yeah, the like I said, the themes are great, but just something about it, man. Like, I think it's a combination of the comedy and the pacing just kind of took me out of it, unfortunately. All right, we're at a 30-minute mark here. We're cruising because this next one's gonna be maybe the longer one. We'll see. But yeah, I watched a movie called Zombie, and you're like, wow, a movie called Zombie. That's a first, right? This is the first ever zombie movie. Technically, no. It actually has multiple other titles. It's funny, it says here 1980, and I think that's the North American release date or year. But this is a Fulci movie. If you've heard of his name, he is. At least I've heard of him in the horror realm in terms of he was pretty influential, or at least he was famous for his gore, kind of going over the top in the late 70s, early 80s. But I know he did this movie. I've heard about this movie. It was on my watch list from last Halloween. But we did watch his movie called The Beyond last October. And also how I know this name is from a death metal band also called Fulci. So, or is it Fulci? It's Italian. But yeah, he's like I said, I've heard good things about him, or at least that he's influential in this type of horror, in the kind of gore horror films of, like, you know, with the over the top blood or just you know, that kind of thing. Creative deaths, right? But yeah, I've heard of him, like I said, mostly from the horror circle and also a death metal band with his last name, which are a pretty good death metal band. They have a pretty popular album from 2019 that I before I watched this movie, I knew some of the line, like they use like sound clips from the movie, some samples, and so watching this movie, I chuckled to myself every time some of the lines came up. Then I'm like, oh yeah, that's from the song. And that their one album from 2019 called I think it's called Tropical Sun, was definitely inspired by this movie fully. I would almost say, like, a lot of the samples in it, but also just some of the song lyrics and the names, and even the art has something similar to this really cool poster. Hell yeah, we're gonna eat you, zombie, the dead are among us. But yeah, like I said, I went off a tangent there for a second, apologies. But this movie had multiple titles. So it was called Zombie, I think, in North America, but also called Zombie 2 in Italy. And then I think in some places it was also called Zombie Flesh Eaters, which is, you can see right here. Actually, I'm just going to put this trailer on because I haven't watched it yet, but it's a minute 23. But you'll get the vibe from this trailer. I've been on the record, and at least on my letterbox, I don't know about streams here, but I will say that I'm definitely lean more towards the 70s in terms of just filmmaking. Just I love color grading from back then. I love the smaller budget movies from the, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, any movie that looks like that, Dawn of the Dead, which we'll talk about in a second, because the reason why it has all these alternate titles is because it was marketed as if it was a sequel to George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. So that's why it was called Zombie 2, like in Italy, because Dawn of the Dead was called, I think, Zombie in Italy. I'm going all over the place, apologies, but let's just watch this trailer quick. So I don't have any trailers to watch tonight. That's right, it's going to spell out zombie for you. Arrow Video, I think that's where I got my The Lighthouse DVD, which was, or Blu-ray, It was from the UK, I think. The music is sick in this. You can hear some of it right now. Hopefully this amount of violence doesn't, you know, get this video flagged. But this whole movie is on YouTube. This whole movie is on YouTube. I didn't know that when I did a free trial to watch it on Amazon, but it is on YouTube, so if you're interested. If you love Dawn of the Dead, then you'll just eat up Zombie. See, all the marketing is just tied to George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, because even at the time, Dawn of the Dead was... I mean, Night of the Living Dead, obviously, George A. Romero's first zombie movie there, the one movie that really created the zombie genre, you know, at least to, you know, to the Hollywood and whatnot. But obviously, zombie comes from, like, Haitian and voodoo African culture. At least that's my understanding of it. But in terms of, I'll say, well, you can see. Yeah, the makeup is so freaking good. Like, look at this dude. He has the freaking worms coming out of his eyeball socket there. And, like, yeah, it looks cheesy for nowadays, but I dig it, though. Like, I would love a movie nowadays to just have this level of makeup, even if it looks cheesy. Like, it's definitely an aesthetic that I find really interesting. And I think it's why I gravitate towards the 70s, because obviously you had filmmakers pushing more boundaries then. I'll say this movie isn't an exploitation film. It does have some exploitation, I guess, elements. But it's also, I think, Italian films, from the ones I've seen, at least most of them are horror too, that maybe, I wouldn't put it in the exploitation category fully. I think this is more just a pure horror zombie movie, but there's some exploitation elements. And if, for anyone who doesn't know, exploitation just was, doesn't mean like people were being exploited. It was more just, part of the movie was to push the boundary, one, because they were fighting censorship, but also it brought people to the seats. Especially in the late night showings, you know, people would go and see, you know, they wanted to see some gore, they wanted to see some nudity, they wanted to see some sex, all those things. But yeah, there's like one part where this woman here, I'm forgetting her name. What was her character's name? I think it was called, yeah, Susan. I was like, I knew it was an S. Yeah, she, like, for no real reason, just she's mostly naked and goes swimming in the, she goes snorkeling or scuba diving, and is swimming with the shark. Well, one, she thought she was gonna get attacked by a shark, but then a zombie attacks the shark. But we'll get to that. I'm all over the place tonight. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Special note. In the interest of public... Wait, what is this? In the interest of public health, the management of this theater will, upon the request of any patron buying a ticket, provide a patron with a barf bag, some of those who use for airline sickness. So I guess this is where, like, going back to exploitation, like, this kind of marketing definitely falls into that category, I would say. But it really wasn't, like, over the top, I would say, in terms of the gore. There's some interesting elements, but... I guess I've been all over the place talking about this movie, but yes, this movie was marketed as like a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, but doesn't really follow in any logical way. But yeah, this movie follows. You know, it's more closer to I would say, like I said, the Haitian zombie mythology, if you want to call it that, or religion. The zombie mythos, where like the zombie is just more of a vessel rather than a. It's not. And what I like about this movie is that it's not like very explicit if it's like is voodoo, or there's a scientific reason behind it, or maybe a combination, and it's kind of left up to you to interpret. And I think that's really cool. It's actually more scary that way. It's like, oh, this just started to happen. and it's spreading, and it starts on this one island, and then because the movie actually starts in New York City, where some an abandoned sailboat comes in, and they find a zombie on the boat, and he gets shot into the water. I won't spoil too much more, but they do. Basically, we have four characters here go to the tropical island. I don't think they say what tropical island is, but yeah, there's zombies popping up on this island. It isn't just like people getting bit and then turned. It's like coming out from graves and stuff, which I think is cool. Obviously, I mean, I love zombie movies in general. I'm a big fan of them. I like I said, Dawn of the Dead is probably is my favorite zombie movie of the older ones. George A. Romero's, that is. But I do think it's cooler to have zombies that isn't always like an infection. There is some like mysticalness to it. There's magic literally to it, of like they just literally, some of them just come out of the ground. Return of the Living Dead, also one of my favorites. I think that was 84 or 85. I watched that every 4th of July since the last couple years, because it takes place on 4th of July. And like, yeah, zombies in that movie come out of the earth, like they literally come out of the graveyards, and I think that is cool. I think it's cool you still could get infected and turn into one yourself, but I do think it's cooler to have that supernatural element where, hey, they're coming out of the ground, like, you know, light spoiler for this one, for this very old movie, 1979. Yeah, there's like one part where they're in like an old conquistador graveyard, and like, so that's some of the zombies come out of that, and they're like, you know, the undead conquistadors, which I think is cool. But yeah, so this movie definitely felt more of a I would say it's somewhat more respectable to the term zombie and where it comes from. Like I said, from voodoo, and I just think it was just very fresh, and also like for a 1979 film, I thought it was, like I said, the special effects were really good, and all the zombies looked really cool, even the ones where they kind of look fake. But like I said, I kind of dig that it looked fake, and almost you know, on a small budget, right? But I just like, there's some great shots in this movie. I didn't even mention the cinematography in this movie is really top notch. Once again, for this, I've seen a lot of movies from this era. Still wouldn't call myself the biggest expert yet, but I've been trying to watch more movies from this era. There's a lot of cool, just like just shot choices. There's zoom-ins. There's some cool pans. There's some cool reflections off mirrors and stuff that they do. And it just felt a little bit ahead of its time in some way. It maybe I like this a lot more than The Beyond that I saw by Fulci. It didn't. This one had much more of a plot, much more interesting. Interesting of a story. There's a lot to love about this movie, and I think from what I've read, is pretty underrated film. I did also watch this. I wanted to give a shout out to this channel called Dead Air Films. I was looking up some Fulci stuff just to see. I wanted to see if there was any like mini documentaries or anything I could watch to learn more about him, because I've read his Wikipedia, but I just didn't know if there was someone's done a video essay or anything like that. But I found this video, and they did a pretty good job of talking about they use most of this movie as the lens, but how zombie movies are political, and I agreed with a lot of their takes. I just want to give a shout out because the video has 562 views, and they're like, you know, 2.3K subscribers. So I like to see, you know, these smaller channels doing, you know, these good video analysis or movie analysis, and I really enjoyed this video, so I wanted to shout it out. And they did some good takes, I think, that I feel like I would be bad at explaining about zombie movies' politics. Dawn of the Dead definitely is an anti-consumerism film, anti-capitalism even. That's why one of the reasons I like it. Outside of it's just great story, great characters, and I love the zombie effects in that movie. They're all literally blue or gray people with some light blood on them. Then there's some cool, like, just, oh man, that movie's great. I need to watch that again. But this one, I would put it up there. I really enjoyed it, and definitely there were some elements of colonization themes in this movie. But like I said, I think they did a better job breaking down and maybe think of even more about this movie that I really enjoyed. But I wanted to shout it out. It's called Can Zombies Be Political? Lucio Fulci Zombie 1979. I really enjoyed this movie. I feel like I yapped a lot about it, and I feel like I yapped about it poorly, so apologies. But I'll just say this: if you like classic zombie movies, you've seen Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead, put this on your radar and give it a shot. If anything, like I put it in the title, but I want to watch more of his movies because I really enjoyed this one. I didn't like The Beyond as much, but I definitely want to see where he went after, because I see he did a movie called City of the Living Dead, The Black Cat I've heard is decent, House by the Cemetery, New York Ripper. So he has a shit ton of movies here. Some of them seem not horror based, but yeah, I need to watch more Italian movies because, like I said, I'm very much interested in the exploitation era of movies. It's actually going to lead us to our next subject here, to some degree, because exploitation movies, also the indie movies from that era, just I find very interesting, and what people were able to do with small budgets before, and also before there was, we have way more access now to CG effects and visual effects, even for smaller budget movies. And back then, just the market was just different, and I find it really interesting. But it definitely is from that era, and I really dig it. And I have a continued quest to get more into 70s and early 80s movies because of just like all the things I just listed. And I've been slowly adding movies to my watch list, and I've watched a lot of them I watch in October. This one's up there for me, though. But yeah, like I was saying, the era of movies where people are doing a lot with small budgets or pushing the envelope kind of leads me into my big thing, which is like maybe we're going the opposite direction, but maybe it might lead us to a resurgence of this. I don't think it's gonna be exactly the same as it was back then, because you don't have the midnight theaters, or you don't even have the VHS era anymore. Obviously we live in the YouTube era, we live in the streaming era, so I guess you can argue there's some more chance for things to be found. Like I can go on YouTube and maybe find short films by small people, small directors or whatnot. But just back then it was a little bit different, right? Not everyone had access, but not everyone also had the money either, if that makes sense. But this leads me to my main point, which is, and I talked about this last time. Is it GG for the movies? Is it game over? Is Hollywood changing for the worst? And there's multiple factors that are affecting us right now in the movie industry. Obviously we came out of COVID, but you still have the theater issue with movie theaters. Box office numbers not always doing the best, outside of a couple heavy hitters. Movie theaters are always trying to find new ways to get people in the theaters. You have AI, which is making more slop, generally speaking, or also, even some production companies we'll get to in a second, not exactly the same, but there's been production companies that have argued, oh, well, you can make your own movie now at home. You can just put whatever you want with AI. Like, what does that mean for the director? What does that mean for the storyteller, the creator, right? But let's get into this article here. We talked about it last week. Warner Brothers, one of the long-standing studios, Paramount as well, but Warner Brothers, I think over 100 years old, has been around for a long time. I've been to the Warner Brothers studio lot a couple years back, but it was up in the air whether Netflix or Paramount was going to buy them, and it's now been official. Paramount is buying Warner Brothers. Let's read this article here. This is The end of Hollywood or a brighter future? What a Paramount-owned Warner Brothers means for the movies. This is by Lindsay Barr. Sorry, this is Associated Press. So two of Hollywood's oldest studios may be consolidating into one. In a shocking twist, after a months-long bidding war, Paramount has emerged as the apparent victor in the fight to acquire Warner Brothers. Netflix, who backed away from the deal Thursday, has hoped to win the movie studio and its vast film library. Paramount wants it all: movies, cable networks, and news. That's the other part of this. We already live in an age where I have my critiques of mainstream media. I do political streams here and there. I can pay attention a lot to politics. But I'm not one of those people that says don't pay attention at all or everything you see is fake. Media literacy is the most important thing when engaging with any news, whether it's Associated Press here, CNN, Fox News, whatever it is. But having cable networks and news potentially more and more under one conglomerate makes it much easier to only have one narrative. We already have a lot of one narratives. If you pay attention to anything last week here. But that's a whole other aspect of it that I think is even more troubling than movies. But I guess you can make an argument that movies, maybe more people are watching movies than cable networks and news. But anyways, almost 10 years ago, Hollywood's Big Six became the Big Five when Disney bought most of 20th Century Fox. Now the Big Five looks like it's destined to become the Big Four, including Universal and Sony, and the business of Hollywood movie making is one again in a time of profound transition. Here's what we know, what we don't, and some burning questions. What did Netflix bow out of the fight? Simply put, it was no longer financially attractive, the company said. In December, Netflix had reached a deal to acquire some of Warner Brothers' Discovery assets, their library, movie studio, and HBO. Almost immediately, Paramount, who months earlier had expressed interest in purchasing Warner Brothers, initiated a hostile takeover bid for the whole company, which culminated in a $31 per share offer this week. Netflix, whose previous offer was $27.75 per share, declined to counter. We believe that we've been strong stewards of Warner Brothers' iconic brands, Netflix co-CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters said in a joint statement, but this transaction was always a nice-to-have at the right price, not a must-have at any price. Warner has repeatedly backed the deal it struck with Netflix right up until Thursday evening, when its board continued to recommend Netflix even while calling Paramount's bid, valued at about $111 billion, including debt, superior. Fucking crazy, dude. David Zaslav, the chief executive of Warner Brothers Discovery, sent a statement that they're excited about the potential of combined Paramount, Skydance, and Warner Brothers Discovery, and can't wait to get started working together, telling the stories that move the world. Hold on, I need water real quick. Also, this freaking ad, dude, really wants me to play Marvel Rivals and get the skin that's emphasizing her ass. Paramount Skydance chairman and CEO David Ellison has said that he would like to grow their combined slate to more than 30 movies a year, keeping Paramount and Warner Brothers as standalone operations. In documents filed to the Securities and Exchange Commission last month, Paramount said, "Our priority is to build a vibrant, healthy business and industry, one that supports Hollywood and creative, benefits consumers, encourages competition, and strengthens the overall job market." They also said it could look for ways to save some $6 billion cuts through job cuts in duplicative operations. That's another aspect people always forget. The human element behind all this. We've already seen mass layoffs in a lot of major companies, especially in the tech and entertainment industries, gaming industry. I like how they say this will strengthen the job market, but then be like, yeah, but we could probably save $6 billion. Executives at Paramount have argued that merging with Warner will allow it to compete with bigger rivals. I mean, I don't know how much bigger we need to get here. With you are going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, outside of Disney, particularly in the streaming space, and bring larger content libraries for its customers. Yeah, but they'll still just raise the prices. So yes, people who already pay for HBO, Disney Plus, all that, they'll make it cheap at first, but then in a couple years when they own everything, it's gonna be fucking cable again. So how's Hollywood responding? Reminiscent of the hours after the Netflix deal was announced in December, there isn't much public chatter from those inside the industry yet, but with several awards shows in the near future, including the Actor Awards Sunday that just happened, relative silence is poised to break soon. The Paramount news broke as promotion. Breathing. The Paramount news broke as promotion is happening. Warner Bros.' latest movie, The Bride. Filmmaker Maggie Gyllenhaal. I'm excited to see this movie. Filmmaker Maggie Gyllenhaal, also she's great, told the Associated Press Friday that she didn't feel prepared to speak to the deal specifically, but she did offer praise to the studio that supported her film. I was reading tweets about it as I woke up this morning. Gyllenhaal said, I don't have a position, but I do feel deeply supported by Warner Brothers, Pam and Mike DeLuca, and I feel like they've been taking a slightly different route than most of the other people around them. They've been supporting films that are actually about something, while at the same time, I think, encouraging the filmmakers who are making them to reach as big of an audience as possible. The combination is very specific and very precious. I mean, I think it's a pretty PC answer. You know, I don't think too many actors... I mean, we'll see. I don't know how many of them spoke up about Disney with Fox. Unfortunately, as much as a lot of actors are in SAG-AFTRA, I think a lot of them just wait for SAG-AFTRA to make a statement, and SAG-AFTRA has been, pushing back the last couple years, obviously with that strike a couple years back. But, there's money to be made for them too, right? Especially if you're a bigger time actor. With these mergers, potentially. And that's what it comes down to. The current state of Paramount Movies versus Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, among the most filmmaker-friendly studios operating, has had a banner year with major blockbusters and critical successes. This year they collected 30 Oscar nominations, thanks to Sinners, One Battle After Another, and Weapons. Paramount Films received 0. Damn, I didn't even think about that. Damn, this is maybe this is more like, they're just trying to buy LeBron James. LeBron keeps winning. Hey, come to the Lakers. In 2025, Warner Brother movies, including a Minecraft movie, Superman, and Sinners, also accounted for 21% of the domestic box office. Paramount's market share was only 6%, driven largely by Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which didn't even place in the top 10. It was 11th. You can maybe throw Sonic the Hedgehog in there. I mean, just to see the numbers like this. So you're almost talking about a quarter. So a quarter of the box office is now going to go under... Because if you want to include their 6, that's 27%, 25%, right? That's a quarter of the market. In November, Paramount pledged up to 2026 theatrical output to at least 15 movies. Before the Skydance merger, the studio is more regularly releasing 8 movies a year. Though Paramount's less than stellar 2025 has been attributed to the previous regime, Skydance has also not had the smoothest run at the box office, and its biggest hits have centered around Tom Cruise with Tom Gunn, Maverick, and its only billion-dollar film, and 5 Mission Impossibles. Attempts to restart the Terminator franchise were less successful. While Warner Brothers has succeeded with the combination of original and franchise films, Paramount's slate is decidedly more franchise-heavy, with intellectual property like Transformers, Scream, Sonic the Hedgehog, as I was mentioning, and Paw Patrol in their arsenal. And Scream, I think the Scream one is doing well, unfortunately. I'm actually cheering against it because of, them firing people over Palestine, voicing their support for Palestine. Also, they also look bad. Is this a better outcome for movie theaters? Cinema United, the trade organization representing movie theaters, was vehemently opposed to a Netflix-owned Warner Brothers for the fear of it might mean for movie theaters. See, that's the other part of this. It's like a very much, whoever wins, we lose situation. Because, yes, I didn't want Netflix to buy Warner Brothers either. I'm not saying... I should have started this from the beginning. I hope it's clear, as much as we talk about movies on here, I watch a lot of movies. I care about movies. I go to the movie theater a lot. I don't want to come across that like I am a Warner Brothers diehard, or I have like allegiance to production companies. I mean, I make jokes all the time that I like my A24 films, but I will critique it when it does movies like Civil War, where it used AI for its posters and advertising, for example. It's fine to be fans of things and enjoy the art aspects, but I think it's totally fine to critique, the marketing and the production behind some of these things, which we'll get to once again in a second with AI, for example. But yeah, I mean, this is important because, like I said, movie theaters have been struggling, generally speaking. I think it's not as bad as the movie theaters make it out to be, but there's a reason why, AMC has their A-list, right? And Cinemark, I think, has their own thing like that. Or why when you go, even if you go a couple times a year with your family or whatever, you're paying, it feels like $50 for 2 tickets and a popcorn and a drink. Like, it's a lot, right? For when people are like, I'll just wait for her to go home and rent it. So it's totally fair to be like, I don't want Netflix to buy it, because there was rumors that Netflix was like, yeah, if we get Warner Brothers, we're only going to have 14 days in theaters for our movies, which is way too short, in my opinion. Then they were just going to go direct to streaming. Even more people will be like, well, I'll just wait 2 weeks to watch the newest Marvel movie or whatever. Exhibition and box office has not fully recovered since the pandemic. Previously, the annual box office would regularly surpass 11 billion. Since 2020, it's only exceeded 9 million once. This is my thing. Like I said, yes, movie theaters are struggling, but we're talking about billions of dollars here. 11 versus 9. We're still talking about billions of dollars here. So, like I said, when I mentioned that, it's not the end times, but I wouldn't trust also these billionaires who all own these movie theater chains to not be like, fuck it, we're just going to close all our theaters. I don't want to, I want 15 billion every year, right? Like, eventually they might just be like, the profit margins aren't big enough. And like that's where this comes in. But consolidation is also a concern. Although Paramount has an established background in theatrical distribution, Cinema United worried about the outcome as well, which they explained in a statement to the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee hearing in early February, noting that a combination of Paramount and Warner Brothers would consolidate as much as 40% of each year's domestic box office into a single studio. I said, I was saying, like, here, like, if you're going off last year's numbers, it's at least 26%. Could be up to 40%. That's what they're saying, if I'm understanding that correctly. We've been clear from the outset about our concerns around consolidation, and nothing has occurred within the past 36 hours that has changed that, said Cinema United's president and CEO Michael O'Leary in a statement Friday. Studio consolidation historically leads to fewer movies being made, and at this juncture, there's no reason to believe the outcome here will be any different. We continue to urge regulators to heed the lessons of the past. In theory, a guaranteed 30 films a year would be a good thing for movie theaters, assuming they all go to theaters and it's not a combination of theatrical and streaming titles, as has happened with the Disney-owned 20th Century Studios. But some are skeptical that will pan out. That's right. Remember when Disney was putting Mulan, the live-action Mulan, on streaming at the same time it came out in movie theaters? Granted, that was COVID. But they've done that, right? And there's also, direct to streaming, which there's always been a market for direct to video as well, in the past. I mean, Prey, I loved that movie. It's probably the best Predator movie outside of the first one. And that movie never came into theaters because Disney, for whatever reason, was not confident to do well in the box office. I shouldn't say whatever reason. It's because the last Predator movie wasn't good and didn't do well at the box office. But they are like, let's just put it on streaming, and it wound up being well received, and they're like, oh shit, that's why we have a Predator Badlands, for example. Hollywood historian and author Mark Harris wrote on Bluesky that the idea of a Paramount Warner Brothers merger producing 30 to 40 movies a year is absurd fiction. He predicted that the first Warner Brothers will become the classy label within Paramount, then it will become the specialty or streaming label, then it will die. Yeah. Yeah. Will HBO Max and Paramount Plus combine? This remains unclear. It's possible to be a bundling situation as there is with Disney Plus and Hulu. With Paramount taking on billions in debt in equity for this deal to go through, many are wondering what will happen to the 2 California studio lots, especially in a moment where productions are rarer and rarer in California. We talked about this last stream. That there's places like in Austin, and whatnots. And like I said, I visited the Warner Brothers lot. We saw that in Mexico. They're trying to push an incentive so that people can come film there, and it's not too far, right, from California, in the grand scheme of things. It's like they're trying to give tax incentives for movies made there. So this isn't, once again, this is more. There's more to it than just this, but definitely this is a possibility. The storied Paramount lot on Melrose in Los Angeles has 30 stages and 65 acres, hosting productions from Sunset Boulevard to Forrest Gump. Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank sits at a 110-acre lot with 31 sound stages and 11 exterior sets, where productions have included My Fair Lady, Gilmore Girls, and Friends. Yeah, I saw the Friends set. I saw Big Bang Theory set. I've seen the sound stages where freaking Blade Runner was made in 1980, whatever. There's some history to those places too. It would really suck for those to go away. There's also a lot of commercials. I after visiting the lot, I'll say, like, every time I see a commercial now, I'm always like, I think that's the Warner Brothers lot, just because of how the streets are or whatnot. Like, after you go there, you're like, it kind of breaks the illusion a bit. Or in other movies, in older movies, I'll be like, oh, that's the Warner Brothers lot. We watched Elvira last year, and the whole town that she's in 100% was the lot. The ending to Seinfeld was in that lot, the one street where they get arrested. It's funny, but anyways, both are historic sites in their own right. Warner Brothers also has a massive studio in the UK in Leavesden. Will regulators approve the deal? This remains to be seen. The U.S. Department of Justice has already initiated reviews, and other countries are expected to do so too. I don't trust the current Department of Justice to do it right. Personally, I mean, if Disney's been allowed to do it, and we saw Trump last time saying he's going to keep his hands off of it. But also, going back, I mean, it goes back again to the cable networks and news. So Trump definitely benefits from this, or just, the Republican conservatism. They already have a huge, market already. I think it's one of the reasons we're here politically. But a deal like this going through, you're talking about, 'cause I think CNN's under this, for example. Like, you're talking about a lot of news networks that now will have even more of a thumb coming from one direction, way more. Yeah. So what's Netflix gonna do though in response? I saw this today. It was literally from today. Let's just watch this video.
Common Mark, second sticks.
Never in my life did I think I'd be having a conversation about AI or technology, and Elizabeth did not imagine she would be in a conversation with Ben Affleck. So here we all are.
One is slightly more impressive than the other.
Netflix has acquired Interpositive, a production technology built by filmmakers.
You got the whole C-suite here, so let's not dilly dally. There's the important people here. All the rest of this company is ground to a stop right now.
There's a lot of skepticism around what is AI, how does it actually help filmmaking? What would you say to those creators and filmmakers who are still very skeptical about it?
I understand the skepticism because I share it, because I had some experience and relationships with people in the sort of precursor to AI visual effects community to go and see some early versions of what was being done with generative AI and video.
We'll see where this goes. I haven't watched any of this. I just saw the headline. I was like, I'm gonna go in this fresh on stream for you all, because yes, before we get into this, there's a difference between generative AI and visual effects. Also, the word AI now has been used to describe things we've had for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, right? So it's like, this is where it gets tough. to identify like what they mean when it comes to creation. If they say generative, like usually that's a no. We don't like that. But we'll see what they say the rest of this, because I could easily, like I said, this could just be AI buzzword. But this was announced today, and it kind of feels like a response to, hey, all right, we were gonna either go the direction of buying everything, or we're gonna go here and see where this. I don't think it's the main thing that Netflix plans to do. But I do think this is bigger than what it might even seem.
And it really scared me. I can't believe what this is capable of. But what I learned pretty quickly was that was a little bit of an illusion.
All right, let me run this back.
It would often, and
I want to hear exactly what he says here.
Share it because I had some experience and relationships with people in the sort of precursor to AI visual effects community to go and see some early versions of what was being done with generative AI and video. And it really scared me. I can't believe what this is capable of. But what I learned pretty quickly was that was a little bit of an illusion. It would often fall apart. What I was really shocked by was how there was this really deep engineering, math, science level of expertise associated with creating this, but no artistic, no filmmaking information whatsoever. I was worried that this was a technology that was going to grow outside of the ecosystem of filmmakers and artists. I saw what I thought was a real opportunity and a real authentic danger. But most importantly, I thought this is a really meaningful innovation.
And it really resonates that instead of letting this technology happen to us or the industry, we're choosing to shape it.
Exactly.
So it sounds like he's talking about generative AI and saying that like we need to put some guardrails on it. Am I mistaken? Please let me know if I'm mistaken. If you're watching the VOD, please let me know if you think I'm misinterpreting that. We'll let the rest of the video play out here, but...
So how would you describe exactly what this tool is?
All right, here we go.
That Interpositive has built if you were talking to your favorite filmmaker? You don't have to tell us who that is.
Interpositive is a tool that's designed to solve the specific problems that I'd encountered as a filmmaker that connect you more to the filmmaking. It's not about text prompting or generating something from nothing. You're building a model from your own material. That's how this works. You have to create your movie essentially first before you can really build your model around your movie using AI. And once you do that, you have your model. You control it.
Area 2, take 1, saw sticks.
AI, people mostly think of as making something from nothing. I'm going to type something into a computer and it's going to give me a movie. That's not what this is. It was built with a lot of people, a lot smarter than I am. You use this technology to learn from your own filmed dailies. Then you're able to introduce that in the post-production process so that you're improving your editorial process, your ability to mix, color, finish your film, do visual effects. It's not a way of imposing a new set of reactions or something alien or foreign to the character. It can only understand this and only build this tool because it's trained on the character that the actor has already built. The filmmaking process, really since its inception, has been one long technological progression. We've always been seeking to make it feel more realistic, more honest, and Interpositive is, I hope, another iteration, another step in keeping with that long and storied history.
How do these actors and filmmakers...
Okay. Like, so what he is saying, to make sure I'm clear, is that this is like a program that will only take, because like what he says is correct, AI, generative AI, ChatGPT, all that nonsense, it's only referencing and pulling from, you know, it could take up to 1 million different things, theoretically, but it's referencing past stuff. That's why when people do generative AI, you know, it'll be something wonky with it, but it'll be somewhat familiar. It's because it's pulling from, like if you do going back to LeBron James, if I go into generative AI, right, and write, hey, make LeBron James in a Minnesota Timberwolves jersey, it will reference other people, it'll reference LeBron James photos of LeBron James, and it will reference, you know, Minnesota Timberwolves jerseys. Or hell, it might even, let's say someone spent a lot of time on a Photoshop, and put LeBron James in a Minnesota Timberwolves jersey already, it's also going to pull from that as well. He is describing that the function is the same, but the program will only take from a thing that you created. So if you make your, let's say, a 20-minute movie, I'll keep using LeBron as an example, I guess. If you make your 20-minute movie with LeBron James, I guess maybe LeBron would be the best example because I don't know. Yeah, I'll just keep with it. Whatever. I'm overthinking it. LeBron James is in your movie, right? And it's about him becoming a Minnesota Timberwolf. You shoot 20 minutes of it, and you're like, "Fuck! I need to make 10 more minutes added to this. I want to get a little bit longer." It sounds like you theoretically you can make that, but it will only pull from the context of what you already have. Because he's explaining like visual effects, so I'm assuming, and I think there's already, and this goes back to like what is when people use AI, it's been such a big term now, even from companies that have used like I said, technologies, like they've been using the same technologies, but they now call it AI, right? Because ChatGPT, for example, is just fucking Google half the time for people how they use it, right? But they'll call it something else. But it is also using a lot more resources. But I digress. I don't know. You like, for example, for S-Rank, the podcast that we do on this channel, when I was trying to look up different generators and stuff, half of the ones I found use the word AI, when all I'm doing is just pressing give me a random noun, but it's marketed to me as AI when it's not. Generators have been around forever on the internet. You know what I mean? Like Ask Jeeves was a generator, right? So I hope that's clear. It makes sense. Is that this could either be, I mean, if we're like, once again, we're just going to go on the basis of like what he is describing here. I don't want to get into too much of, for the sake of this, get too much into the environmental cost and whatnot with AI. Just on pure surface level, how much different is this than the tools we already have? That's not something I'm 100% familiar with, because I've heard from directors who say, yeah, some of the stuff that people have described, like we've had that. Like, I guess you could call it artificial intelligence, because we're like, hey, if you're in Adobe Premiere, you can do color correction, right? Where it's like, hey, if you see this color blue, make it green. Like, that technically is artificial intelligence. Like, you're not by hand changing every pixel on the screen. You're having a program change it. I don't know if that's what he means by this fully. It sounds like it's more than that, which I don't know if I'm comfortable with. But at the same time, at least this sounds a little bit more guardrailed, right? But I'm very much I'm black and white on generative AI. I don't think it should be used in. Video game studios have been criticized for being like, oh, we used it to pitch ideas to us, but we didn't use it for the actual things that you're playing in the game or the visual effects that you see. I don't think use your own thoughts. Google it, I guess, if you need really, like, I don't know, you're a writer, right? So, like, do it. If he's talking more of, like, the background is, like I said, going back to the blue, making it green, and it's like quicker, or is able to do it, you don't have to do it scene by scene, I guess that's like better, like that's cool, right? But it's so hard to tell because of, like I said, the word AI has just been used to describe things we've already have, and I don't know if that's fully an example of this. It sounds like it's more. I don't know how I feel about it, except that like I said, I'm pretty black and white on it. I'm going to let this play out a little bit more and see if we get any other thoughts.
Makers react when you show them what's possible with this tool?
At first, it's startling, and it's a little bit unnerving. But what they do want to know is, so what does this mean? And I always say, it means You and I can go shoot a movie on a stage, and we can really focus on the performance and the intention and the meaning and the humanity of it. I want to take out all the logistical, difficult, technical stuff that often gets in the way. You can use your own model to remove the wires on stunts, reframe a shot, get a shot you missed, shape the lighting, enhance the backgrounds. You can take some of those problems out.
So you're cutting the visual effects artists out. At least in the examples he expressed. Like, oh, I want to move this. Or at least you won't need as big of a team. Which, hey, good for the production companies, right? And it's supposed to be basing off their work. But they showed a screenshot of, like, putting a car into the street. I'm like, is that just using an asset library? Is that no different than if you've used Adobe, like, stock photos? Because people don't know this, probably as often they think, but, like, sound effects, you know, are bought by production companies or for the specific project. That's why you hear the Wilhelm scream in a lot of movies, because it's from, like, the Skywalker Sounds, you know, effect studio. They're not going and recording new sound effects. They just use stock. Obviously, I think visual effects, they do that probably more than we realize. I think Jurassic World, one of the Jurassic World movies, I think people were like, oh, hey, I've used that same shot with the horses, and they just CGI'd velociraptors onto the stock video, right? I'm sure, like, if you see a skyline in a movie, you know, that's probably stock. So I just, once again, it's just like, how intrusive is this? Like, how... Because what he showed in those, like, visual examples just feels like it still would need a outside frame of reference. Because how the hell did it, like, show him in a snowy fucking world without having that being, once again, referenced? Because AI has to reference from something. It isn't coming out of nothing. That means it would have to reference somewhere else in the movie that has snow in it. Or there's a stock library. And that, to me, is like, how is that different than before? So I don't know.
Yes, you can do it more quickly.
I'll say this: I have nothing against Ben Affleck. We like him as Batman, right?
You can do it more easily. You're giving more choice. You're giving more opportunity. You're getting more episodes of your favorite shows. You're getting more human work.
So how...
But is it more human work, or is it just we can create more quicker things for you? Like, I think that's his argument. Is like, well, you'll get more of it because it'll be quicker. Which, yes, there is a pattern right now of TV shows taking... Literally, Monarch Season 2 took, 3 years to make? And a lot of the shit in that movie, in the show, is, like, CG. You know what I mean? Or on green screens. So I'm not opposed to getting shit quicker. As long as the cost isn't... You know, people are getting underpaid, or just, you know, you're just rushing to get it out there. You know, I'd rather people spend time to make it right. But I think right now we see shows taking a longer time, and then they're not good either. But it just sounds like you're wanting to cut corners with this.
How do you think about the responsibility that Netflix has in this space, and especially now in joining forces with Interpositive and you?
What was impressed upon me was, like, this is a group of people that genuinely cares about this industry, that wants to foster growth in it, that wants to enable creativity.
Does it? Does Netflix actually want to do that? Because out of the streaming platforms, I feel like people shit on Netflix the most for its quality of content, right? And the fact that we have to use the word content to describe TV shows and films.
During the last couple of years, you've produced movies for us, you've starred in movies, you've directed movies. I think having that, you know exactly what it is to make
I know how it is to
multiple movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, with us in every aspect.
I worked all across this company with a whole range of your executives, a whole team, and every step along the way, it only reinforced that, like, sense of security and comfort. And I thought, this is a place I feel really good about bringing this to.
I'm glad that comes across, because it's not new to Netflix to work with technology. We've been working...
It's always funny to see, like, the conversations, like, wow, we're having this conversation for the first time. Once again, it's like this is a thing that a lot of corporations and stuff do. I've seen it even in my own job before, where it's like, oh, let's talk about this as if we're talking about this for the first time.
With ML and AI for a
Let's also glaze each other up a little bit.
long time, but always in service of responsible use of technology versus technology for technology's sake really rings true in terms of the culture of the company.
And I can validate that because as we start to build this, I got exposed to everybody in the tech community. And there are a lot of competing philosophies about how it should be done. Some people move fast to break things. Yeah, a lot of different approaches. And I can tell you what, it's very uncommon for those to be characterized by compassion for or even an interest in creative community or artists. And a lot of times I heard people saying, how do we get the human out of the loop? What Netflix does and what the film community here does broadly is say, we actually care about this whole ecosystem.
For us at Netflix, like, I always want and hope we can always, like, provide filmmakers tools. Because for me, it's not really about cheaper. It's really about better.
I didn't
Well, you should have looked at Stranger Things.
need to go into technology. I did this because I love it, I'm passionate about it, and because I want to sustain and protect this thing that we all love, which is why we're here.
Yeah, so they made this announcement today, which I'm assuming this wasn't like they didn't like as soon as the like I will say I don't think that this was something that happened over the weekend. Like, hey, let's get a call. Hey, Ben, come fly out to the studio. We could do this quick little video conversation here. This is probably at least minimum a couple months in the works, right? Like, you don't just this doesn't just happen overnight. So I think, like, even if Netflix was in the running still to get Warner Brothers, this might have still happened. But I will say I feel like the fact that, you know, they're announcing this within the first, you know, last couple days, maybe there's something there. Maybe. I do think this is a scary direction, though, that not just Netflix is going in, but like others where, like, and I think I made this clear in the first one, or my last episode on this, where it's like AI and just in general technology, there's under capitalism, but especially American capitalism, there's this idea that all technology, any progression in technology, is inherently a good thing. You know, because people think of it as if it's like cancer research, right? Like, yes, any cancer research is good, but people think like the newest iPhone. That's why we have a new iPhone every year, right? One, it's just they want it's like buying a new car. They want to have you buy something every couple years. That's how they make their money. But let's be real. There's not much difference between the last iPhone and the one before, or even the one before that. They might have a little gimmick they change with it. The goal is to sell you something, and this idea that technology is inherently good, you add that in there, those two things just doesn't. That isn't true. Because you know what isn't the biggest example of technology isn't always good? The atomic bomb. Nuclear weapons. Shit, just the military-industrial complex as a whole. They're always trying to advance. We have a lot of money invested in that. That's not good. And I think AI is another example of this. I remember when all this shit first came out, I immediately was kind of hesitant on it. I tried ChatGPT like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, what is this? And then obviously more shit came out about like how its resources are used environmentally, the referencing. Like I said, especially I'm like very much against generative AI for sure because of how it steals from artists. People aren't hiring artists anymore. People aren't hiring graphic designers anymore. Just because it is more productive, even if you try to look at it from that angle, doesn't mean it's always good. There is consequences to it, and I have a feeling, though, unfortunately, the industry, I've heard regular people say this: the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think that's true. Humans are capable of creating. Humans are capable of destroying. And I mean, you can use that for a lot of things, including society. Critiques, but this idea that like this is out of there now, it's No, we could stop if we wanted to. This feels like a compromise. And that's why I am against it, I think. And but I also go back to how much of what he's describing is realistic, how much of what he's describing isn't already tools filmmakers have already had for some time. The other part of the conversation. But it goes back to my thing. It's like, we need to make films quicker. It just goes back. It goes down to AI slop eventually after this. Like, right? It's just like, I need my thing quick. Hit me with the dopamine. Hit me with the dopamine as quick as possible. I will admit, it's like I have the same issues with my phone. I'm addicted to my phone, and I try my best to fight it. Some days are better than others. But the reason that is because everything on our phones is designed to keep us engaged on that. But it's slowly killing us, man. And I hate to sound like a boomer, but it really is. I think we're in a digital cigarette era. And I hope in 20, 30 years we're going to look back and be like, damn, dude, everyone was on their fucking phone. Damn, dude, there was some garbage made. That's what I hope. Damn, thank God we got rid of that AI bullshit. Thank God we only maybe use it for fucking cancer research and not weapons of mass destruction, and also taking away some of the only creative jobs in American capitalism. Because it's either your creativity is a hobby that is unserious in a capitalism framework where if you're not commodifying it, it's worthless. Your hobby is worthless. Not saying I agree with this. I think art is one of the most valuable things of being a human, and engaging with it and discussing it like we're doing it kind of now. But I digress. It's either you're doing it or you're doing it for someone else. And yes, there is some levels of freedoms that exist. Yes, there's some directors who get more of it open check. There's some directors who get more hands-off from producers. But at the end of the day, they're looking to make money. And if this is a way to save money and create more stuff for us to consume, they're going to do it. But I keep saying it, it is not inevitable. The genie is not out. There's no genie. Technology is a choice. It's a policy choice. It's a financial choice. It's also a social choice. We don't have to buy it. We don't have to engage with it. And if we do engage with it, we critique it and we criticize it. And this idea that, like, because it's also the assumption that this genie out of the bottle, this technology changes everything. It makes it think that we were primitive before. There's things that work, and we can take those things. There's things that don't work, we leave those things behind. And I think this is a time in history that I really hope that in 20 years we left it behind. It was a fad, like fucking NFTs. Because I'm mostly focusing on the moral issues with this. Obviously, like I said, there's the environmental cost. I guess, if anything, that should probably be the first thing. It is not feasible to maintain, especially on a planet that is warming and getting warmer quicker than scientists think. I just don't. That should be the first. That should be the first thing. Then yes, there's the moral part of it. And then also it's like, what's this for? Oh, it's for people to make money. As opposed to, I want to make art. That's where the AI conversation has been from the beginning, because it's being propped up by billionaires and billion dollar companies. This didn't come out of some dude's basement who's like, I did this because I want to make my own video game. No, it was like, oh shit, we could do this. Oh, dude, we can sell this shit, bro. Someone needs, let's keep doing this shit. Oh, dude, we can fleece the fucking every corporation for this shit. We'll tell them, oh man, You never have to take notes again. It'll do it for you. Just don't tell them about how much it costs for the data centers, all right? If anything, we'll just have the federal government pay for it. Yes, we'll prop up our entire economy on that. It will pop. That's my hope. And it will suck, unfortunately for us, because the economy always affects us poor people. But I digress. I think that's all I wanted to talk about tonight. Hopefully it wasn't too depressing of an ending, and I hope this episode was good, folks. We've hit our hour 34 mark here. Yeah, this sucks as much as we don't cheer for the big corpos anyways, but to have a bigger fish eat the other big fish, I just don't want big fishes, and it sucks. It sucks. And we'll see what Netflix does with this, and more so just their general reaction to this. I don't know. I mean, I also know there's a lot of other awful shit happening in the world right now, and this feels almost like every time I come on here, I feel like there's something really bad happening, and it's hard not to not think of it. But yeah, I hope this wasn't too depressing. Like I said, but you know what? Like I said, maybe out of all this, there'll be more indie movies. People will be making movies the old school way, or maybe there's new ways we haven't thought of yet that don't involve AI theft and all that. But we need to support our small indie directors, indie video games, any of those things that you engage in, the real art of it all, right? I think we're gonna go back to doing it for the love of the game, doing it for the love of the game, and I think maybe that's something we can take away from. That's what I'm gonna try to take away from tonight. Doing it for the love of the game, just like I'm doing the stream for the love of the game. Really appreciate everyone hanging out. Appreciate anyone who's watching the VOD, or if you're from the future and hopefully my prediction was correct, you can be like, hey, you were right. That'd be really, really cool. But yeah, thanks all y'all for watching. I'll be back probably in another we do this every other week so far. I've been liking that pace. I don't see myself changing it. I think the next one will be either before or after the Oscars, right? Meow. You're right. I think so. We'll see. I don't remember offhand. I don't have the date in front of me. But, alright, y'all. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.